All right. So welcome everyone. We'll keep letting people in as they arrive, but my name is Erin Peterson. I'm the Senior Director of Mission and Partnerships for the Colon Cancer Coalition. Super excited to have everyone on board here on this meeting today. We set up a meeting rather than a webinar, so you can get your questions answered. If you want to go back and review webinars from the past 2 years, those are archived both on the website and then in the resource drive that is available that we can show you here later. We have two incredible volunteers to answer all your questions about turning things blue and getting a proclamation started in your state, and representatives here from Fight Colorectal Cancer as well to answer any logistical questions that Tim may or may not be able to answer. Allison Rosen is a volunteer for the Colon Cancer Coalition. She is a rectal cancer survivor, the local event director behind Get Your Ear and Gear Houston, and also is a representative for the American Cancer Society here tonight. And then Tim McDonald is a volunteer with Fight Colorectal Cancer based out of Tampa, Florida, if I'm incorrect. And one of my favorite pictures of blue things from last year are the palm trees. Very, very nice. So Tim, Allison, I'll let you guys introduce yourself, maybe give a brief overview of what you've done in terms of proclamations and turning things blue. I have, just so you know, resources set up that I can screen share. I can share the website, I can share the toolkits, I can share the form for people to fill out. But I don't have a huge agenda other than letting you guys kind of give an overview and then answering questions as they come up. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. We can interrupt maybe Tim or Allison as they're talking, or get to them at the end if a question feels a little less urgent than that. So Allison, Tim, either one of you want to go first?
You want to go first, Allison?
Sure. I'm happy to. So first, thanks, Erin, for the introduction. And I know quite a few of you. For those who I don't know, I'm a stage 2 colorectal cancer survivor. I'm in Houston, Texas, for reference. So everything's bigger in Texas, I feel like. So a few years ago, I've worked in oncology and I'm also an advocate. So I sort of have dual roles. I was working in the Texas Medical Center and realized there was nothing happening for Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month in Houston, and I was not okay with that. So I reached out to my director and I was like, hey, can I do something like what the coalition is doing in Minnesota, in Houston, and try to get all the partners sort of in Houston together to turn blue, to do whatever we potentially could. And so I got go ahead, do whatever you want. So with the support of the coalition and my cancer center and the medical center and the contacts that I knew, the first year I tried to turn Houston blue. I got 5 buildings. It was our cancer center, a few buildings in the medical center that had blue lights, our city hall, and I think a bank. And then so I realized how to sort of do that. And on top of that, Tim will talk about proclamations, but I got a City of Houston proclamation and a State of Texas proclamation, but it slowly grew as I involved ACS more. I wasn't working for the American Cancer Society at the time, but we had partners. So most cancer centers or clinics have an ACS partner that's local. So I reached out to them about helping and making it a little bit bigger than what I had done by myself. And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll help. And so it went slowly from, I think, 5 to 20 to 50 to last year, I think we had over 70 buildings and landmarks and businesses turning blue. And so there's tips and tricks that I gave Erin that are in the toolkit, but really for me, it started with who I knew and the medical center institutions, the organizations, and then during Christmas time, knowing what buildings are in our downtown or even like in the neighborhood had blue lights and sort of reaching out, cold calling. Really, it's like the facility directors or calling the realtor that's in charge of that large skyscraper in your downtown and just, saying who you are. And the good thing about Blue for CRC now is there's a lot of partners. So if you use Coalition, American Cancer Society, and list all the advocacy partners, Fight CRC, then you're more likely to get them to say yes. And I always start with the city, because once the city says yes and they get the city buildings and landmarks, then I get my airport, which is IAH, Intercontinental, and Hobby. They turn blue, but they always ask, well, is the city on board? So I always start with the city hall and who's there. Sometimes they'll help you get the buildings in your downtown or any city buildings that are that do the utility building and this building. And so sometimes they'll help you with that. Houston won't. So I just happened to drive downtown when the Astros won the World Series and look to see what buildings were orange. And if they're another color at any given time, they can change to blue. I guarantee that. It's just a filter number that you have to give them. And I give them options. There's in the toolkit, it's anywhere from a week. I think there's a date range, the 3rd to the 12th. So I say, I'd like you to do it for the whole time, but if you can't do it for the whole time and you can just do one day, I pick one day that I give them as the option. And then I give them the tweets that are already ready to go. I ask them to tweet about it. I ask them to share it, because if you turn everything blue, you want to have awareness behind that. So I think the 3rd year we decided to have a press conference. So we would turn the lights blue, we get our proclamations. And so what we do now, and before the date that we turn blue, we have our mayor, Houston mayor, we have the head of the Texas Medical Center, we have usually someone within oncology. So this year we're going to be partnering with MD Anderson. We have ACS, which will be probably myself, but then also the executive director in Houston. And then we have usually 1 or 2 survivors. And it's very simple. It's like a 30-minute press conference. Aaron and the coalition helps write a press release. We reach out to the local stations, and we get the inflatable colon because we have a really nice location where we have an inflatable colon and we have space for the inflatable colon. So not only are we having this press conference where the press can come and sort of park on this street where they do for anything related to medical issues, we give people that are in the med center area to walk around an opportunity to walk through the colon and get information. So American Cancer Society and the cancer center I used to work at would provide pamphlets and information. And then you have, again, survivors and doctors and people there that can be interviewed on the spot right there. And every year we make the news, at least 1, 2, 3, stations. And I also, to promote it, go on radio and TV ahead of time as well. So getting this press release listing, what's going on about the initiative, but then also they can personalize and say 70 buildings in your city are doing this. And even if it's just one building that you get to turn blue, that's amazing too. Even if it's just City Hall and you get your mayor to endorse it and come out and talk about it, or potentially do an interview with you. I think all the tools are in the toolkit that Aaron's provided. And I know that some people also they want to participate, but they don't have blue lights. You don't have to necessarily even do blue lights. You can have people wear blue that day or a day. You can tell people they can go to the store and get blue lights, blue Christmas lights that are on sale right now. And they can put them on their front in front of their house to participate. And I think that I start now. So after this webinar tomorrow or next week, I'm having a meeting with some of the people that support this in Houston. And the earlier you can get it on people's radar, the better you can be. And if you're starting from scratch, right now is when you should start, because I get buildings, Erin knows this, like she'll ask for the final list and I'll be like, I'm still waiting. And I bug these people, not so much like, oh, please do this, please, I'm rude. I'm reminding them that I want to confirm that they'll do it. They have the Twitter, they have this. So it's a great day. It's a great week, but the day of the press conference is my favorite. I usually do it on my birthday because it falls within that window every year. So it's a great birthday present, and I sell that to the people doing it. But if you're gonna do, again, turn blue lights, even if it's one, try to get some sort of media interview along with that. Because it's great to have a building turn blue. And even if you don't have a media interview, go in front of that building or landmark or business or your house that turned blue, take a picture and post it on social media and use that Blue for CRC hashtag. So I could talk forever, but I will let Tim talk now, and then happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Allison. And just to let everybody know, I did do a lot of what Allison said for the first time last year in Tampa. And I was the only one out there, but my wife and I stayed downtown in a hotel and walked around and got all the pictures of all the different elements that the city did to turn blue for us last year, and just took my own pictures since we couldn't get the media to come out. Trying to change that this year. But yeah, but just a little background on me. I am 54 now. I was diagnosed 2 years ago with colon cancer to the liver, mets to the liver. Am currently pursuing getting a living donor liver transplant, and hopefully being NED in 2023. But last year was the first year that I got involved in doing any of this, and proclamations were kind of my sweet spot. I just looked at what Fight CRC had up on their page, went to Florida's site, and thought, this is all a foreign language to me. I have no idea what this is or how to fill this out. But I just took my time, gradually understood it, and then figured, oh, this is easy once you know what you're doing, and reached out to a bunch of other groups that I belong to on Facebook and said, hey, we don't have proclamations in this state or this state or this state. I think I ended up getting about 20 people from different states to submit their proclamations. But more than that, they were going through the same thing that I was going through, thinking that this was like a foreign language. They didn't know how to do it. And what I came to learn is each state is different in how they do it. Each city is different, because I got the city of Tampa and the city of St. Pete to do proclamations last year, in addition to the state. And I actually help people fill out their own states proclamation forms for them via Facebook Messenger. A lot of times it was just copy and paste and copy and paste and copy and paste. Put this here, put this there. What are you seeing next? Because sometimes I couldn't get to the next screen because I wasn't doing it for them. So it was I would consider myself a semi-expert on proclamations at this point. But it's so simple to do. And the biggest thing about a proclamation is start now. Because some of them, I actually have mine already in. They're already into the state. I did that the middle of December. I did the city the middle of December and got the confirmation that they've approved it already. And this year I'm going for our county commission too. And I've talked with one of the commissioner's aides, and there's your county and your city have different rules than mostly the states do. And sometimes there's a certain number, or it has to be presented in a certain time frame. And so just don't get discouraged if it seems like it's a big deal. Just ask the questions, learn about it. And if it doesn't work out for this year, save it in your back pocket for next year. That's my best advice for you. And don't ever get discouraged by no's. It's like, oh, well, just go to the next one and try it. And you know, I do not live in the city limits of Tampa. I do not live in the city limits of St. Pete. I got proclamations from both of those places because it's a greater Tampa Bay area, and I consider myself a resident of the Tampa Bay area. So don't think that you need to actually be a resident all the time to get these things done, because a lot of times you can just do it and they'll do it for you because you requested it. The proclamation is really simple. All the information is on Fight CRC site, so I'm not going to go through all that. They actually have some instructions and links for you to get to the actual thing. And I did, like Allison said, I did get the city to turn blue. I'm not going to talk too much about that, but mine was easy in Tampa. I just got the city. The lady who was doing the proclamations actually forwarded my information to the facility manager for the city. He got the thing approved for me. And then as a result of that, one of the other towers that is a bank, they actually did it without me knowing. I was trying to get in touch with them. I couldn't get the person to call me back, and they actually did it because the city did it. So, and this year I did the same thing that Allison said. I've been paying attention to all the buildings and bridges and everything that go change different colors. And this year I was driving back on I-4 and saw the Hard Rock in Tampa that was red and green for probably Christmas. And now I have already looked up the facility manager for Hard Rock in Tampa and going to be calling them and seeing if we can get them to go blue. So that's a little bit about me, but I can, like Allison, probably talk about this all day. So, I think we're both really interested to hear your questions and really use this time most effectively to address what you have questions about so that you can be most effective this year in getting proclamations, getting your workplace or your city or your county to go blue. It's just like, it's a great way to get some awareness. And like Allison said, my big thing this year and year two is to try and get the media coverage, because I tried like 2 weeks before to try and get it last year and didn't get any response. But this year I've already started working on that in December again. So we're making some progress there.
So common theme is sometimes it takes a while and it's okay. And don't be afraid to ask questions. The worst they can say is no, and then you just ask again next year, right?
Yeah.
We've got
and I will say this, sometimes the no, you need to go with a follow-up. Well, if it's not you, then who? Right? Because a lot of times that person might know who you can talk with. Or do you have any other suggestions? And that might, stimulate some other things. So don't take no as a empty thing. A no is just one response that can get you information that can lead you to some yeses in other places.
And
Yeah,
Tim, that's a really good point. Sorry, Allison, do you want to?
Well, I was just going to say that if you get like a large building or stadium or the city, that's why I say start with the city first. If you get the city that's going to turn your city hall a color, or the city downtown, or your little town, I don't, big town, small town, doesn't make a difference. I always use that in my ask of some of these smaller places. I'm like, will you support this initiative? The city is already on board. We love you to join us. So, and then as I add places, I say, well, we have, MD Anderson, we have the city, we have the airports. Will you join us? Like people want to be a part of this. If like the city's going to do it, and if a large cancer hospital is going to do it, and especially if the airports are going to do it. I thought I would never get our airports, but they were like, if the city's going to do it, I'll do it, because they're essentially, the airport system's a part of the city. So aim high. Like your stadiums, if you have a large stadium, the likelihood that they can turn colors is pretty high. And even if you can't be in the stadium, just know that they're doing that. And again, asking them if they would be willing to tweet something out or put something on their social media. Even if they don't, you can. And a lot of times they'll share it. So.
And if you want to start, you can look at the participating landmarks on the webpage that I can share the link to. There's a list of participating landmarks from 2021 and 2022. And you can say, hey, such and such landmark in Houston did this, or the stadium in Minneapolis did this, with the stadium in Denver be willing to do it as well. So
I think competition between cities, when somebody knows that somebody else did it, they don't want to be left out,
Is do y'all know if the White House is going to go blue on March 7th, that one date?
So we know that they are definitely going to be issuing another proclamation, and we are working on, they've turned a lot of colors this year for a lot of different things. So they definitely don't have an excuse. So we're working on that.
I mean, I think that's once if and when that's confirmed, that's also something huge you can use. Well, the White House is going blue. Okay, that's like the largest, biggest, most influential house in the US. So you can say that, be a part of something even larger, because you want your city to stand out. And I'm sure at some point, Erin, it'd be nice to make some sort of competition out of it. What city can get the most, because no one loves a competition. Most people love a competition, and it's for a great cause.
Right. But I also don't want to turn anyone off and say, I have to get how many landmarks to go through? Like literally, if it's just your porch light and your co-workers to wear blue on a day, that counts. Like that's something that we want to celebrate. We want to celebrate all of the colorectal cancer awareness that's happening all over, whether it's a small family-owned business that's wearing blue or putting a blue sign in their window for the month, or it's a big bridge or stadium that's being lit blue for a day or a week. That's what we want to celebrate too. So there's no ask that's too small, no ask that's too large. And again, use some of the examples from past years to kind of engage your community. This is really good. I want to start answering some of the questions that have come in the chat. Someone asked, Carol asked if we have a target or a specific date. We do look at the week or the 9 days of Friday, March 3rd through Sunday, March 12th. That kind of gives us 9 days, 2 weekends. If you want to, a lot of buildings will only do it one day. We target a Tuesday. It's easier for media coverage, and it's easier for landmarks because they actually have someone in a building that doesn't have to like do specific work to go in on a Saturday to turn something specifically blue. So we target a Tuesday. So if we want to look at a target date, we look at Tuesday, March 7th, but really that whole 9 days, a weekend, if they can't do it until March 21st, we'll say it's in honor of Lynch Memorial Day or something like that. We can, whatever works for the building or the landmark, that's all part of what we want to accomplish. Is there a list for what cities are already engaged? I think maybe after this call, I saw there was some comments and communication already in the chat about where people are located. That might be a good way to connect with somebody that's on this call that might be engaged, or looking back at past lists to see what's happened. If you are looking at a specific city and you want to know, like, hey, I saw that such and such was lit in Denver last year, I want to connect with someone in Denver, let me know and we'll make those connections on the back end as well. I'll put links to all of these things in a follow-up email to everyone too. Let's see, there's some communication about proclamations. Molly, do you want to address that, or Elizabeth address some of the comments about proclamations in terms of outside people asking across state lines, things like that?
Yeah, happy to. And Olivia, feel free to jump in as well. So as Tim mentioned, and Tim can speak to this too, in some states, it might be easier than others. Some states may require you to put in your address to show that you are, a resident of that state to make the request. But I know Tim, and as he talked about, did a great job of reaching out to his friends in different states, and you can kind of help do the work for them to kind of get them started. But certainly if there's, like in Tim's case, he lives in the greater Tampa area, but maybe not exactly in Tampa. Those are definitely good opportunities. I also saw in the chat some talk about, if there are places where proclamations requests have already been submitted, it definitely can't hurt to follow up on that, or to, submit your own request again to just show, there's a lot of support for this effort. And, kind of the more voices calling for it definitely helps.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you are not sure if your city or your county are do proclamation, just Google search it, and a lot of times it'll just put proclamation your city, or proclamation your county, and a lot of times you'll just get a link right to that. A lot of times it's amazing how simple they are. Like when you search for it, it just shows up for you. The other thing is, I wouldn't worry if anybody else is doing it. I know last year Florida had at least 3 proclamations issued for colorectal cancer awareness month. At least. That's just people who told me that they got one too, in addition to me. I know that there's more, and I know when I called the state that they actually told me that there was other people that had submitted. Don't let that discourage you from putting in your own proclamation just because somebody else already did. Do it, get as many as we can, and if you can, get a physical copy of it. One thing I'm learning about, the state mailed it to me last year. The city I needed to go pick up from Tampa, St. Pete mailed it to me. Now this year I'm understanding if I get one from the county, I actually need to show up at the county commission meeting, and they're going to issue the proclamation while I'm there, which is a great way to get your story out too, because then you'll probably have a chance to say a minute or two about why you're there and why you're getting the proclamation. So, there's different cities and different counties will handle it different ways, but most states will just do it and issue it, and they'll issue multiple ones generally. The only state, if anybody's here from California, I learned this last year, the governor of California is prohibited by law from issuing proclamations. And so you need to get a state assembly person or congressperson or senator, I think, to issue the proclamation. I know Spencer Dayton, who is involved in politics out in California, he's a Fight CRC ambassador too. He got one from somebody that he knew because he's involved in politics out there. So like we said, some states are very tricky. Some states are very easy. California is one of those really tricky ones.
Hey, Tim, as follow on to what you were saying about city or county websites, like my county does proclamations, but the process isn't listed on the website. So I reached out to the county mayor's office. And just said, hey, what's the process for this? What do I need to do? They sent me the form. They're old school. They still do, word form. And so I had to fill that out and send it back to them. But there's always a way to figure out. So if it's, if it's not on the website, shoot an email to the city, your county mayor or your city manager, whoever kind of in the administration offices, and they'll help you figure it out.
Yeah, usually anybody in a government office, you would think this is going to be the opposite of what it is. They're usually very friendly if you're friendly to them, because they're there for you, so if you're not coming in with a complaint, they are going to treat you and try and help you however they can.
Hey, Tim.
Yes.
It's Carol. Hey,
Hi, Carol.
I just wanted to throw in two things that I actually learned just recently about the proclamations. I applied. Mike and I have received several years of proclamations in the state of Connecticut, and I'm from Ohio, and so I always do a proclamation for Ohio too, easy peasy. Two things that I've learned, and that is the verbiage can be complex. And one thing I learned was that you can oftentimes just allow them to create the verbiage. Instead of having to figure out that dynamic yourself. It's super easy to just say, you write the verbiage and then let them do that themselves. And the other thing that I learned just recently is I just recently submitted the Connecticut state, city, different cities that Mike has been involved in politics in. And I approached Lamont for an in-person meeting. And there was a button where you can click, do you want to have it mailed to you? Do you want to receive it at the State House? And I actually clicked that I wanted to receive it. And then I actually emailed the offices and requested an in-person pickup at a meeting from Lamont. So you have to there's two separate places. So I would encourage everyone to request that FaceTime because it doesn't have to be a prolonged meeting, but it can be just a quick pro quo FaceTime, exchange that's really, really important when it comes to all this legislative stuff that we're doing for colorectal cancer. So those are two things I learned. And then additionally, with all the lighting up and Alice, I learned so much from Allison last year, and this year I'm really going to dig in a little bit more. But I also found that just being in Connecticut, I'm able to do a lot of things here, but don't be afraid to reach out to places that throughout the country. I treated in Cleveland. It's where I was transplanted and all my treatments. And so I'm connected in Cleveland. And so I reached out to Cleveland already this year. And so they're willing to, to work just because they know who you are. And so I would encourage everybody to, also venture out of your, of your small space to greater places like Allison did. So it works.
Yeah, and Michael brings up a great point. Not all these places are going to have something on a website. I'm just everything that I searched for last year showed up on a website. But if it doesn't, they probably have a website for the county or the city. Just go on there. If there's a phone number, just pick up the phone and call and ask what you're trying to do and who you need to talk to. And they'll usually be happy to point you in the right direction. Because not everything is, but almost every proclamation that I helped last year required at least the the sections, the whereas, every section starts with a whereas, I think it is. I haven't looked at them this year, but those you need to like give them. And so sometimes it's like you just need those, and sometimes you need the intro, the whereas, and the conclusion, and the signing seal and everything. But Fight CRC, the link that is in the chat right now, that page, if you download the toolkit, has a link to your state site and the actual sample of what the proclamation would look like. The only thing I do is I change the date, the state, and if it's a governor, I change it to mayor, or you know, if it's a county commissioner, I change it to commissioner. So I just do all that little changes, but everything else is just copy and paste.
Yeah, that's what I do. I think my city, I filled out my city and state one probably like December 15th. My city of Houston one's ready. I have to go pick it up. It's waiting for me to, you have to actually go in and they want you to like proofread it, make sure it's correct. I have like all mine right next to me. If you have a press conference, I suggest you bring the proclamation because it's a really good photo op. And then the state of Texas, like they always drag their feet, and there's a lot of us from Texas that submit. So I always do a follow-up call, always, because I feel like if I do a follow-up call, it's like, oh yeah, I see you. Let me mail that today. Like they have a lot of things they're doing. So if it's like a few weeks before, I wouldn't wait the week of. I would do like, you know, the middle of February, just say, hey, you know, I filled this out in December or January. Like it's been a month now. Like you know, and you can, same what Carol said, you can request in person. Like Austin's our capital, you can request in person for a sort of a photo op if you want, or they can mail it to you. It just depends. I'm trying potentially to do something in person. Another group that you could reach out to is ACS CAN. Besides Fight CRC and ACS CAN, like your local people might have connections with arranging something like actually at the Capitol in your state, if you want to do something like that. I haven't. I'm looking into it to see if we want to add that to something that we do, because I don't know if there's someone in Austin that that turns a bunch of lights, but if there is, I'll invite everyone, all the advocates in Texas, to potentially come for, again, it's a photo op, but it's a great opportunity to like make yourself known. So if you go up there another time, they'll know who you are.
Yeah, and I was going to say just another thing on the proclamations, and this is typical on most of them. They're going to ask like what organization you represent. Put down whether it's, you know, colon cancer, you know, coalition, whether it's Fight CRC, whether it's the American Cancer Society. They're not going to fact check you on this. Just, you don't need to be an employee of them. You can just be a volunteer, a supporter, a fan, a person of interest. Just put it down there. Put your personal address on there. What I do, like obviously being an ambassador for Fight CRC, is I always put that, but then some of them ask for like, what's the purpose or the mission statement? And if you just go to one of their sites, look what their mission statement is, copy and paste it in there. You know, it's like simple things like that. Each form's a little bit different. Each state's a little bit different, but you can generally find the information. And if you ever get stuck, I know Fight CRC and Colon Cancer Coalition are more than happy to help, but you can reach out to me too. I did this, like I said, for almost 24 people in addition to doing it myself last year. I am more than happy to be of assistance and help guide you through it if it's the first time you're doing it and you have any questions or get stuck on anything, because it does seem like it's just this. I always say, like, I'm not an attorney and I'm not a lawyer, and every time I look at lawyer papers, it's like I don't even know what I'm reading. And that's kind of what proclamations are like to start with. So you don't need to understand it all. You just need to figure out the system and how to get through it. And that's what I've been able to do. And I'm more than happy to help you understand that process too.
And one other thing in the Fight CRC toolkit is a graphic to be able to use on social media. So when you submit your proclamation, be able to just use that graphic and be able to post that. And then we'll be able to find those as well and update the website to make sure everybody knows that your state has been submitted. Another thing in the toolkit is the state-by-state information will have links and contact information included. So you can use that contact information to follow up on the requests and even use it to request the signing for the proclamation in person and everything that you could use it for. So those are everything that's included in that toolkit.
And I love how the New York crew already has the New York group has like a crew already. Find other advocates or people that can help. They don't have to be in the same city. Like you can all work together and help each other and support each other. It's great. I've had people in Texas reach out and be like, hey, how do I do this in Dallas? How do I do this here? Send them a toolkit, but then also just like Tim, I said, hey, let me know if I can help you. And again, some cities are easier than others, but if you have more people calling and you can divide and conquer and get even more stuff turned blue or more proclamations or more awareness and whatnot. And don't be afraid to use those connections that you have. Again, if they don't have blue lights and they just want to participate to support you or colon cancer awareness, they can, dress in blue. I know the GI department at MD Anderson is going to wear blue on I think it's going to be March 7th. It will be whatever day we have our press conference. But the whole institution isn't going to, because they can't. They have regulations and rules, but the GI department is going to. So, ask your doctor, ask your nurse, ask your providers. It can be your PCP. It doesn't have to just be your colorectal cancer doc. It could be like anybody. Again, a group of 5 people in blue in a picture in social media with the hashtag is added to the whole Blue for CRC hashtag. It goes along with the mission to spread awareness.
Malvina, did you have a question?
No, just tagging on to what Allison said about having doctors' offices wear blue. Erin and I have discussed this, that it's like hospitals as well are a great place to target in terms of getting people to wear blue or even turn blue, because it benefits them directly. So if you're targeting their ask, if you're targeting them as a group, to note that, this is a great way to increase your colon cancer screenings this month, and kind of sell it for the benefit that they are looking toward as well.
Perfect. I'm going to do a screen share and kind of walk people through some of the resources that we have. I also have Fight CRC's link open, just so you can see what options are out there and what we have, and if there are any questions as we kind of run through this as well. Is everyone seeing what I'm seeing? I'm not gonna be able to see chat anymore, so let me know. So this is the Blue for CRC webpage. 6 simple steps. You're in step 3. Hopefully you've downloaded the toolkits. Those are available. We have both a oh, now my share bar is above my screen. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a little wild ride. Technology, not my friend tonight. So we have a volunteer toolkit and then also volunteer or a toolkit for healthcare systems as well. So if you're working with a doctor's office and they express interest, a toolkit specifically for healthcare systems and doctor's offices is available. Additional resources, there's a recording of this webinar from last year with Allison and a colorectal cancer volunteer. And so that is available if you want to go back and just get a PowerPoint presentation with a lot of what we've talked about here. This meeting will be archived probably in the section where we had the Zoom link stuff. And then once the proclamations are completed, obviously let Fight CRC know, but if you have a landmark submitted to Go Blue, fill out the landmark form and we will get all of the confirmed landmarks added to our webpage in advance of March when we start talking about all of our successes. This is the page from last year. Tim, my favorite photo. You might recognize that one.
I do.
And we took, we had 31 states that had something in that Go Blue. Obviously, we'd love to get to 50, but we'll take 32 this year. We just want to keep adding to our list. Some of these we were confirmed through the forum. Some we found just through online searches and people using the hashtag Blue for CRC. So every little bit, we'll be monitoring it. Every little bit helps add to our list. And we pulled some interesting photos as well that get kind of smattered in there. And even the pictures of staff members going blue, all of that is important. Here is, if you haven't seen it, Fight Colorectal Cancer's proclamation page. You can check your state status or download their toolkit as well from here. Olivia, Molly, any comments, anything you want me to navigate to while we're on this page?
Yeah, go ahead and click or go ahead and go scroll down. If you go all the way down, you'll be able to see who is secured so far. And so the red is still needs submission. The little minute timer is waiting for the proclamation to be secured. And then once it's secured, we'll change it to a green check mark. But that will keep you updated there state level. But yeah, once if you want to go up to the download the toolkit, that is going to take you to the material once you put in your information, and you'll be able to download it right there. And everything is in one download.
Perfect. Oh, look, I'm auto-populated in your website. Let's see what else. I'll just let you kind of skim Allison's tips and tricks. Her complete list of tips and tricks are in the volunteer and advocate toolkit. The link to the landmark form is in the toolkit. All of our partners were so thankful to have not just Fight CRC and American Cancer Society part of it this year, but we added 8 additional industry partners or peer organizations who are very excited to keep expanding this program. There's links in here to also a resource drive. So from the resource drive, there are co-brandable awareness graphics that you can add a logo to or just download and use for your own social media. There are links to the webinars before. If you want to use a background like mine, that's a virtual meeting background. We're going to be adding some additional ones as we get closer to March as well. Refreshing this one is a couple of years old. The toolkits are here again, as well as if you are looking for sample language to ask for a landmark to go blue, we have sample email invitation language in here as well, with places to add your own story, request what landmark. There's a one for healthcare system, but also for something coming from a volunteer. If you want to follow Allison and take it above and beyond and do a press release, there are sample press releases in here as well. If you have any other questions about doing a press release or who to reach out to, if there's enough interest, we could do a specific training on that, or I can be happy to answer, just jump on a quick call and answer any questions that happen to come up as well. And then some sample Twitter messages that can be used across Twitter, but also in other social media purposes. And we will continue to update this. The other thing that will be added before hopefully the end of January is a sample letter to the editors. So if you want to do a press release but aren't getting traction, or instead of doing a press release want to send a letter to the editor of your local community paper or the daily paper, there will be a sample letter to the editor for why things are blue and why colorectal cancer screening is important. So look for that coming as well. I'll stop sharing my screen unless there are any questions or anyone wants me to navigate to a specific place.
Hey, Aaron, I don't have a question, but
Yeah.
wanted to offer help for folks who might be interested in doing this. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and in my market, I'm actually asking the TV stations to have their on-air talent wear blue one day in March, preferably the 7th, but I'll take, again, whatever day they're willing to do it. You know, if you have a TV station in your market and you know they wear red for women in February, and it's really kind of the same concept, but again, you have to ask them early. So I'm asking them now. Last year, one of my 3 TV stations did it, and this year I'm hoping for at least 2. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm happy to help anyone, you know, navigate who do you need to talk to and make that ask to. It's usually, you know, the station manager or the news director or the community relations manager. It just depends on how your station's management is broken down. So
That's a great idea. Michael, maybe we can put another resource into the resource guide for how to make that
for
request.
sure, yeah, I can put a little something together and send it to you, Aaron.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great idea. I'll stop sharing and we can answer any other questions that have come up while we've done this. I don't know if there's anything in the chat that I can look at.
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Since I'm new to doing this, like, how do you begin in asking for your landmarks? I mean, do you normally call a facilities manager, or do you send information? How does that get started?
So for me, the first cold call I made was to the city of Houston. There's a special events person usually. So I would call, if you go on their website, there's a special events person or facility person. You call them, you introduce yourself, and you take the letter the email and the letter, that sort of template that Aaron had. That's what I used the first time. They can ignore emails, but they can't ignore your phone call. And then if they're not the right person, they'll tell you who the right person is. And say you're a survivor or caregiver or patient. And this is, again, a national initiative. So like sell it like you'd sell anything, just again, to get the right person. And once the first year you do it, it's harder because you have to make a lot of phone calls and go through a lot of people. After you've done it one time, you'll be surprised how much easier it gets. And like one time a year, these people just know they're going to hear from me about turning their building or their landmark or addressing their people in blue.
Another thing, if it's a prominent landmark, Yvette, there may be a form online. So for a number of like bridges in Minnesota, we are able to just go online to the Department of Transportation and there's a form to turn the 35W bridge blue, for example. Or if we go to the Hennepin County, which is where Minneapolis is, there's another bridge over the Mississippi River that there's another form that we can request that the Lowry Avenue Bridge is turned blue. And, those are usually very easy to fill out, very well received. And they just have to plug in a color for a specific date, and it is an easy lift for them. A lot of prominent landmarks will have that. Sometimes it's easy to go, how do I turn Target Center blue? And there'll be a link to make that request.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna say though, for the first call, I would make it like your city, like Allison suggested, because once you get them on board, one, they're probably gonna tell you, like, if you ask who the other contacts are in the area that you might be able to call. But two, once you get them on board, it makes it easier when you contact the other ones to say that the city's on board. Because that's my problem. I started going for that Truist Tower, that bank tower that I told you about, and I couldn't get anybody to call me back. And that was my first time ever trying to call somebody. But then I just happened to ask the proclamation lady at the city of Tampa, and she forwarded all the information over to the facilities manager. And lo and behold, I showed up downtown and the Truist Tower was blue too,
If they're nice, they'll help you. My city person told me, and this is not necessarily going to happen, but just be prepared. So my city person told me, well, we don't do that because we don't see colorectal cancer as a priority. And that's not the case for the medical center. That's not the case for the city. That's just one person saying that. I'm sure if I said that to the mayor, that this person, I just wasn't going to tell on her. So I had to call each building separately. But if you get somebody that's sympathetic and they've done it before, you might be able to get the city person to help you, like Tim did, to get all these other bigger buildings. Hopefully you don't get that response, but don't get down if that you get that response, because then you just call on your own, because they turn blue for other things. They turn red, they turn green. So it's just getting the right person at the right time to listen to you and say yes.
Jen? You have a question?
I was just gonna
Comment?
add on to what Allison said. Just in my experience, I also found it was helpful sometimes to share a few stats about colorectal cancer. We have a lot of stats available both on your website and on Fight CRC. And I think what I found was a lot of folks were surprised when I shared those stats about they didn't understand the magnitude, or it's kind of the flip side of being, growing and going to be number one, cancer killer in certain age groups, in X number of years, is it kind of gave them that perspective of, oh, wait a minute, colorectal cancer awareness, this is like up here. Like, we've supported all these other causes, and it kind of gave them that perspective of how important this cause was. And I really found that resonated when they learned that. Was like, oh yes, of course, this is a major cause, a major issue, and very important. So, I'd encourage, if anyone's getting any pushback, to, those statistics are unfortunate, but this is one case where they could at least be used to help increase awareness.
That's a really good point. Thanks, Jen. Are there any questions or resources or things that people feel that we haven't touched on that are not available that would be helpful, that we could help create? As Jen's talking, I'm thinking maybe we do a fact sheet that's available in the resource drive. Is there any other things that people would find useful?
I'm sorry. This is Shauna. I came a little late. I didn't see where to get the resources that you have available. I didn't see where that's located.
It's on our website.
Okay.
Colorectal Cancer just dropped their proclamation link in the chat. I tried to put the link in the chat, but I missed the important HTTP. My technology, you guys. You're hitting me on an interesting day. I'll drop that in the chat as well for you. And I'll send an email to everyone that is on this call or that registered for the call. Thanks, Olivia. I'll send an email with some links and things to follow up too.
Thank you.
And just love seeing you New York City people, because I used to work in Manhattan for several years. I would love to see you guys what you're gonna do this year, and be sure and share some pictures on social media, because I'll be sure and find them.
That's awesome. Well, Olivia, Molly, Elizabeth, anything that we've missed that you want to make sure get mentioned?
Nothing from me. Elizabeth, anything from you?
My hair's looking crazy, but just be sure to use the hashtag #Blue4CRC and tag Fight CRC and Colon Cancer Coalition so we can see all your photos.
Good point. Good point. With that, we will, like I said, I'll put together a follow-up email. Look for that. Hopefully tomorrow, if not very, very early next week. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out directly. We'll get you answers, get you connected maybe with people in similar areas that we've worked with in the past. But thank you everyone for being here. Enjoy your evening. Thank you for giving us an hour of your time and being patient with all the technology. Happy 2023. Right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.